Hello everybody, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today I'm going to be streaming a game that I've done before, and actually was on a podcast, Three Moves Ahead, talking about this game. This game is Rule the Waves. I played it a bit on my YouTube channel, trying to think of when. It's been a while. It's been 6 months to about a year since I've made anything with this game. But with that being said, it is a sort of a grand strategy game that puts you in the shoes of a admiral of one of the great powers during the early 1900s arms race. Really, it's about the arms race that leads up to World War I. It takes you from the era of the pre-dreadnought, sort of the main battleships that had two major turrets, generally four main guns, and then a whole host of small guns in the early 1900s, up through the development of the dreadnought, the rapid evolution of technology with the dreadnought arms race, all the way through a little bit after the historical period of World War I. Rule the Waves came out a couple of years ago and was very widely and very well received within the wargaming community. Probably a little bit more niche than a lot of sort of general strategy games go, but I've never played as Russia, and I thought this is a game. I did a Let's Play collaboration series with XTRG and Tortuga Power where we played as France. I played on my channel as Japan, but I've never played as the Russian Empire. Now, you can play as the British, but they've got a huge empire, a huge naval budget, a lot of responsibilities. It's a little bit overwhelming, and frankly, when you get into a war with most other countries, hard. Germany's a little bit different in that they've got a huge naval budget, but a really limited focus and scope of which they have to sort of deal with. They have an empire, but it's relatively small, and I kind of feel like Germany's pretty easy to play as. France is kind of the same thing. They've got a huge empire, but huge naval budget, and, frankly, was pretty easy when we played as them, as long as you avoid war with the British, which I think we did most of our Let's Play. Italy can be a bit of a challenge, but they're a little bit more regional focused, and they don't really have an empire, so you can keep your fleets really concentrated within the Mediterranean and do much better because of that. Austria-Hungary is small, no sort of overseas territories, and as a result, it is kind of a limited playthrough, kind of the same way as Italy, but a little bit even more so. Russia, I think, could be an interesting challenge because you've got the Far East colonies you've got to deal with. You've got sort of Vladivostok, you've got the interest in Russia, you've got the sort of inherent conflict with Japan that is strategically very difficult to manage, but you've also got sort of near European powers to worry about. A narrow front in Europe, but again, you don't have this global empire, but you do have a global reach, so I think it'll be an interesting challenge. Additionally, Russia has an underdeveloped shipbuilding industry, which means your naval construction takes a lot longer than some of your rival powers. I don't know what the poor education influence is, but I'm assuming that also influences your speed of building. You do have good-sized docks at the start at 15,000 tons, so that kind of limits how large your navy can be when you build your first class of ships or whatnot. And it's actually amongst the largest, just behind Britain and France in terms of naval dockyard size, so that should be good. You don't have, well, no one has access to oil early. You do have a bonus tech of active mine warfare, which I've never really, most of the countries have had where their bonus technologies, like, it tends to be something like Germany where they have cross-deck fire. Britain doesn't even have any bonus techs. And I'm trying to think, like, Italy has some additional, you can have triple turrets or things like that. But I don't really know what active mine warfare does, other than I'm assuming an increased risk of enemy ships hitting mines, which is kind of realistic if you think about sort of the way that the Russo-Japanese war was fought. So I think it could be a lot of fun to play as Russia, and that's what I plan to do. All right, so let's go ahead. You can see here as Russia, the leader is the Tsar, which we were just listening to the Tsar's national anthem. The government type is autocracy. I can't speak. Building areas in Northern Europe, so up in here near the Baltic Sea. Naval budget is 32 million. Historical naval budget is 16 million, but usually I go with the game naval budget. It gives you a little bit of a boost in terms of being able to build a more realistic size navy. Underdeveloped shipbuilding industry, which we've already discussed. Poor education, dockyard size of 15,000. No early access to oil, shouldn't really matter. Bonus tech, mine warfare. And the naval guns you start off with are 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12-inch guns. So unlike Germany, which only starts with 11-inch guns, or Italy, which goes up to 12. I think France, do they have 13-inch guns? Yeah, they do. Russia starts with sort of the standard complement of naval guns, although I'd be interested to see what their quality is. Let's go ahead and hit OK here for Russia. We're going to go ahead and choose fleet size, very large. Our name is going to be The Butcher in true Russian form, and also sort of my channel nickname. I did actually do a CSA sort of let's play before 3 Moves Ahead, so you can see the last time I played this looks like was back in January of 2017, so a while ago. Let's see, we're not going to do historical resources. We're not going to do manual build of the legacy fleet. I like getting that stuff kind of provided to you. It adds a little bit of element of randomness, which I think is important in a game like this, where you're sort of role-playing as a Grand Admiral, sort of the Alfred von Tirpitz of the Russian Navy, if you will. The idea of having a fleet given to you and you just kind of get what you get, I think is more appealing. Although I will say, as Russia, I presume I'll be at war with Japan before too long, so that may make things a little bit more challenging. Research rate will stay at 100%. I don't know what varied technologies does. That's a new one for me, but we'll just kind of leave that all as standard. Okay, so let me go change this. Right. There we go. All right, so let me just check in with the chat real quick. Ruled the waves once before he took an arrow to the knee. Nice. Russian singing is pretty darn beautiful. Ouch, knew that. All right, so I think we're good to go. So here you go. This is the Russian fleet at the start of the game. Again, this is a little bit more of like an out-of-the-park baseball type game in the sense that it's a lot of spreadsheets, a lot of text. You're not really going to see graphics or whatnot, so I apologize if that's what you're looking for. You're looking at the wrong game. In terms of the Navy here, you can see here where we're given this Navy. We can see, actually, it's going to be easier to figure out what our fleet is if we go ahead and here click on the almanac. You can see the Russian Navy budget is 210 million. You can see that it is the fourth largest naval budget behind the U.S., France, and Great Britain, and Germany, actually, so I can't do math. It's the 5th largest naval budget, only bigger than Japan and Austria-Hungary, Italy theoretically, but they're not in this particular game. The Russian Navy is going to start with 11 battleships, which actually puts us in pretty good stead with the rest of the powers. 2 more than the U.S., 6 more than Japan, 4 more than Hungary, about the same as Germany and France, and smaller than Great Britain. We have 2 battleships building, which again puts us in pretty good stead, on par with Japan, who's likely our most immediate rival, far behind Great Britain, slightly behind Germany. We have 8 heavy cruisers in service, 8 armored cruisers. That puts us in roughly parity to a lot of the rest of the powers, with only 1 constructing. 8 light cruisers, again, roughly in par, and 27 destroyers, which puts us way ahead of countries like Austria-Hungary, and France. You can see here the rest of the Navy, nothing else is in construction here, and you can see it gives you battleship tonnage totals. So, again, all the rest is roughly in par. Interestingly enough, the Japanese have 5 battleships, but only 73,000 tons in their battleships, which kind of makes me wonder about the size of those battleships. Now, the largest naval guns the Japanese have are 10-inch guns, and if I go in here and click on this, you can see it says 14,000 tons for their battleships, 14 to 15,000 tons for their battleships that are in service. I guess that makes sense. If we say they only have 70,000 tons, but they also only have 5 battleships, I kind of forgot about that. You can see here the Russians have 3 different battleship class. They've got the Rizovin class, which appears to have 4 12-inch guns, 12 6-inch guns, 6 4-inch guns, and it's 12,800 tons, makes 19 knots. That's pretty good speed. 10 inches of armor. I kind of need to refresh myself on what's adequate armor, although I usually like to have an armored belt that's equal to our main armament. A slightly larger class, the Tri-Svitlaya class, 15,500 tons, makes 19 knots, 4 12-inch guns, 16 6-inch guns. These appear to be in turrets, so not a sort of tertiary armament, no third size guns, but nonetheless adequate, I think. Slightly weaker armor, though, so that's going to be good firepower, weak armor for that class. And the Parator class, which is 15,000 tons, again, 19 knots, only Well, it has 4 12-inch guns, but they appear to be in single turrets here. So you've got a single gun turret and 4 aft, and then 1 on each midship. So they only have a 3-gun broadside. Heavier armor at 10 inches. I do not like this class at all. So I like concentrating my guns so that they can all fire in a single broadside, and these midship turrets don't allow me to do that. It does reduce your vulnerability to a single hit knocking the turret out, but not really what I'm looking for. So let's go ahead and exit out of there. Our heavy cruisers appear to have 7-inch guns. So interestingly enough, they make 20 knots, 7-inch guns. We've got some long-range light cruisers. There's a second class here, slightly larger heavy cruiser, 8-inch guns. So these are more like World War II heavy cruisers in terms of their armament size. Interestingly enough, before World War I, a lot of heavy cruisers had heavier main armaments. Some of the British heavy cruisers had like 10 and 11-inch guns, which was more common with battleships of the time, but looks like ours are more standard. We've got a 3,100-ton... I like this class, the Palata class. That might be something I build a little bit more of. 21 knots, 8 5-inch guns, good speed, some torpedoes, and our own torpedo boats. A couple of them are short range, which gives you some penalties, but overall, that's the fleet of the Russian Navy. Now, if we go to see what's under construction, you can see we've got 2 Ganget-class battleships, so that's a new class that we haven't seen yet. 4 12-inch guns, they make 19 knots, very light armor, only 8-inch armor amidship, so not exactly the type of battleship that I want to build a lot more of. Again, good weapons, 12 7-inch guns, a very strong battery, but not very survivable. And that's kind of a little bit of a worry, especially given that, our ships are going to be probably on the other side of the world without substantial ability to repair themselves. The Oleg class, 4 8-inch guns, 14 6-inch guns. Geez, this is a well-armed ship, but again, very light armor. So it seems to be our strategy as a Navy appears to be to have very little in the way of armor. Our prestige starts as 20. This is kind of how you get graded as a commander. Tonnage on foreign stations is okay. If we look at the map, Russia really doesn't have any requirements in terms of foreign stations outside of, what is this hex? The Northeast Asia hex, where we're required to have... I don't even see. 540, I guess? I'm not sure. Do we have anything out there? I mean, we have possessions. I'm trying to think for our ships. We don't have any ships in our Far East territories. Everything's in Northern Europe. Okay, well, that's a little bit of a concern here. You can see here we've got 276,000 tons Northeast Europe. We need to send some stuff to Northeast Asia, especially given the fact that Japan is likely going to be our principal rival. So what do I want to send out there? Let's take a look at the actual facilities that we have here. We've got no base here, really. Base capacity 100. This is Port Arthur. And apparently Vladivostok isn't in this game. Kind of represented by Port Arthur. So I'm going to improve the base. It's going to spend $2.4 million on improving our base. I can't afford that right now because I have no money. Okay. Do I really have no money? I have $1.5 million in funds, but we have a balance of $3 million. All right. In that case, let's go ahead and send some battleships off that way. Battleships that I'm most confident in are actually our Reziv class, if you pronounce it that way. Their heavier armor makes them, kind of in my opinion, more valuable. We're going to go ahead and send two, let's see, destination, Northeast Asia. And we'll also send some of our heavy cruisers. Send 4 heavy cruisers. I think we've got a couple of long-range light cruisers somewhere. Send 4 light cruisers. And some destroyers. Wow. Not trying to... All right, there we go. Let's go ahead and send some destroyers. But we're going to send a sizable chunk of our Navy out that way. It's going to take them a while to get there. You can see here 2 of these are long-range cruisers, and of the ships we're sending, none of them are the short-range destroyers, so that's good. It's going to take them a little while to get there. It'll take them a few turns. Meanwhile, I'm not actually going to do anything. I'm not going to design any new ships quite yet. I want to get a turn or two in so that we have a little bit more budget. But I'm going to go ahead and spend some money on research, or reprioritize research. So we're going to go ahead and have machinery. We're going to increase our naval budget to 10%. We're going to make guns a high priority. We're going to make guns our high priority. We're going to make fleet... I don't really care about fleet tactics as much. Anti-submarine warfare, what do we want to make our sort of our limited priority? AP projectiles, ship design, machinery, and armor. What do I want to make low priority? I don't really want to make anything low. I guess there's no submarines right now, so anti-submarine warfare technology, less important to me. Submarines, less important to me, although maybe that's a bad idea. One more thing we should set to low. Light forces and torpedo warfare. The torpedoes tend to be really powerful in this game. Damage control is important. All of this stuff is important. Explosive shells will go to AP. We're going high priority on explosive shell, or on AP shells, so explosive shells may be low priority. All right, so that's what we're going to do there. We're going to go ahead and have some initial intelligence, just low-level intelligence across the board. You're going to see here it's going to change how much we have in the way of monthly balances here, but we're going to do that. And then we're going to go ahead and just skip it, basically go ahead a turn. So you can see here at the end of the turn, Austria-Hungary is laying down some destroyers, Great Britain's laying down some destroyers, the French, the Japanese. Unexpected delays are affecting the building of the Imperator Nikolai I. Problems in the delivery of equipment have delayed the construction of one of our cruisers, and we have more ships in the Mediterranean than our bases can support. Well, that's because we're sending our fleet that way, and we don't have any bases in the Mediterranean. It looks like we can support up to 10 vessels, 10, I guess, 1,000 tons of vessels in the Mediterranean. So these ships are going to start losing, some of their capabilities. Now, it looks like the total tonnage of the vessels we picked is 78,000 tons, which should fit in our holdings in Asia. We now have over $6 million in funds that are available to us. I'm going to go ahead and improve our base, spending $2.4 million, improving our base in the Latong Peninsula as we move these vessels to Asia. Okay. The Black Sea. So the Black Sea is in the game, but it's not, it's on a map, but you can see here there's no sea zone in the Black Sea. So as Russia, that kind of actually is a little bit of a limiting factor, because you'd think the Russians should have a fleet at Sevastopol, although it looks like we're, for whatever reason, using a modern European map, or maybe, I don't know if it's modern. Yeah. Looks modern, because you've got Ukraine here, which shouldn't be here. This is part of the Russian Empire. You've got Belarus here. I just noticed that for the first time ever. You're using a modern European map. This is Poland. This is Germany. Weird. Okay. Because Germany should kind of have this big, elongated section here toward Eastern Prussia, but for whatever reason, the stock map of the game is a modern map of the world. Not that it matters. The bases are all still where they historically need to be. It's just sort of an interesting aesthetic. You got like Finland here, but Russia actually controls Finland in the game. But it's still the modern European map. That's interesting. I never noticed that till just now. Okay, so we've got a little bit extra in funds. Let's go ahead and build some new docks as well, increase the size of our dockyards. So we're not going to have much in the way of funds. I'm going to kind of go ahead and skip one more turn. More unexpected delays of several of our vessels, and we have more vessels in the Indian Ocean than our bases can support. So you can see here, these vessels are sailing into the Indian Ocean now. And this is kind of going to represent sort of the historical difficulty, this is the Indian Ocean, of the Russians sending forces to Asia, especially during wartime. These vessels would lose sort of their efficiency as they travel the rest of the world during an actual war, which would sort of model the historical challenges that the Russian Navy had during the Russo-Japanese War, where they had to sail a fleet around the world to try and relieve their forces in Asia, but they had no refueling ports along the way. The vessels really broke down and got in horrible shape, and by the time they arrived, they were easy to deal with by the Japanese, because they had basically been beat the crap out of for thousands and thousands of miles. So you can see the new base in Asia is going to take 12 more months, and I don't know if I can... it's tempting to build a base in Sakhalin as well, or somewhere else, so that if we were to lose Port Arthur, we would have a base to go from. But the way the sea zones work, I'm not sure that really matters. I think it would just give us an increased overall ability within that. Oh, so there is Vladivostok here. Okay. So base capacity at Vladivostok is 400. Base capacity at Lotong is 100. Okay, good to know. It's just a different spot in the map. All right. We're going to go ahead and jump ahead one more month. So Germany's laying down some more destroyers, more unexpected delays of several of our vessels, and now they're in Southeast Asia. Right? You can see here this map on the right maps out the tensions with the various powers. So you can see here the USA's tension level and Austria are both at 4. When this gets up to 10, you'd have a war. And actually, your tensions with Japan are a 3. France is a 1. Great Britain is a 3. And Germany is a 3. So really no risk of war yet at this point in time. If we go to the almanac, we can see here sort of the same situation that we had when we last checked in. Nothing's really changed here yet. The USA's tensions with Japan, I don't know. In this game, the only countries that you really have to worry about are your countries. So this game doesn't model power conflict. So as far as the game's concerned, the only country that anybody's ever going to go to war with is Russia, being us. And if anyone else is at war, it would just be on our side. So we can ally with someone. If our tensions with France fall to 0, we could sign an alliance with France, at which point they would come in on our side in any war. But it's all sort of modeled off map. Really, one of the limitations of this game is the fact that you're really Russia is the center of the world in this game, and no one else cares about anyone else. So yeah, it would be interesting if you could play different countries off against each other, but the game really doesn't model that. Now, I will say that the game, there is a sequel being made. There's a Rule the Waves 2, currently, supposedly, at least according to the developer on the forums, in development. And as a result, perhaps that will be something that gets modeled in a sequel. I believe the sequel is also intending to carry the game up through into World War II and include aircraft carriers, which are not something in the game currently. I don't know how the heck the game intends to model that, given this, it'd be a very different world and a very different war to try and model a multi-power war like that. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle that. So you can see our fleet made it to the Northeast Asia station. We no longer have the alert telling us that there's insufficient, port capacity. So all these guys are now in our ports in Asia, and as a result, they're in good stead. Now, the one thing we need to consider is Japan has 5 battleships. We only have 2 battleships on station in Asia now, so might be something we want to consider, shifting additional forces to Asia, given that, in my view, Japan is the likely power that we would have a war with, but according to our tension scale here, that's not necessarily true. So for the moment, I'm going to keep the rest of my fleet where it is. We haven't had any additional research or development or anything like that. I hate the idea of building more ships that are going to be obsolete very quickly, and we have quite a few ships that are already under construction. Actually, several of these are going to be completed very soon, so I'm going to hold off on designing anything new until I have some new technologies that make it worthwhile actually designing something new. What I am going to do is I'm going to go ahead and change some of our training regimens. So if we go ahead here and click on training, you can have different ammo loadouts based on gun size. But I'm going to go ahead and give our troops some additional training on gunnery and on torpedo warfare. That will increase our upkeep costs. Oh god, that will kill our total available budget substantially. I think we're just going to do gunnery then. It'll use about 1.3 million per turn. It'll increase the quality of our crews at gunnery, but unfortunately, you can see here that's going to take 12 months for it to take effect, and it's going to slash our available monthly budget, or I think, go ahead and fast forward. So we had some new ships that are commissioned to the Navy. Several destroyers are completed. Several other navies have vessels that have been completed. And yep, you can see our monthly budget has been slashed pretty substantially. But we do get a little bit of that money back as you complete ships. When you're building ships, these cost a certain amount. You can see this costs $1.4 million per turn while the ship is being built. So those additional ships coming off the ways meant that our budget wasn't quite slashed in half. We still have about $1.7 million left over. Meanwhile, research is still not really progressing anywhere. So we're just going to go ahead and jump forward one more turn. Private shipbuilding has expanded our max dock size by 1,000 tons. So we actually invested to increase the size of our docks. We invested several $1,000,000. We've got 8 more months till that happens. But some private shipbuilding increases mean that we can now build ships up to 16,000 tons. Once we see this, the Lecce is commissioned to the Navy. During trials, it's found that the ship is somewhat overweight. Okay, so that's not great. One of our destroyers is going to be slightly less efficient. That means the design isn't very good, but you can see here the building, or the dock size is increased by 1,000 tons. Additionally, I don't know how we had a couple battleships that were already over 15,000 tons. I see that a lot in this game. Yep, Ranger, I have sent a fleet to the Far East. You don't get to pick which port they're in. So basically, they're in this naval section of the map, but they're not actually at Vladivostok. They're not actually at Port Arthur necessarily. It's just represented as being within this hex. So it's not quite down to the granular of saying which ships are where. I assume maybe that's somewhat up to the area admiral. Again, you're the grand admiral, so maybe you don't micromanage the fleet quite to that extent. It seems a little bit odd, but again, it's a little bit abstracted. Okay. Let's see, where are we at with some of these constructions? We've just started finishing some ships. Let's go ahead and get a couple more of these destroyers completed to get a little bit more in the way of funds. Okay, so this is the first random event. It's August of 1900. There's been an internal upheaval in Albania. Austria-Hungary is apparently sending a force there, ostensibly to restore order, but it's likely they have far more reaching plans. What do you recommend? We should issue an ultimatum demanding that they back down. So there are random events that pop up, by the way, periodically throughout the game, and these are really what drive your tensions. So these tensions can go up or down over time, but based on your responses to these random actions, it's really what causes conflicts to occur or not. So we can view the almanac from here. You can see Austria-Hungary's naval budget is substantially smaller. They do have 7 battleships. We have 11. 2 of ours are in the Far East. But again, we've got 11. Granted, we don't have any battleships in the Mediterranean, so it'd be very hard to blockade or actually fight Austria-Hungary. Nonetheless, they're sending troops into Albania. We can issue an ultimatum, which will increase tensions by 2. We can push for an international force to thwart their expansionist plans, which increase tensions by 1. Or we can say this is no concern to us, which will do nothing. Now, the other thing keeping in mind is that as tensions increase, so too does your naval budget. So higher tensions are actually good in order for you to get more money to build your fleet, but they're bad because they increase the likelihood of war. Austria-Hungary is of concern to us if we think about it because of their relationship with the Slavs. So in my view, we're going to go ahead and we're actually going to do something about this. I guess we should issue an ultimatum. I don't know if is Albania Slavic? I'm not really sure. I don't know about Albania that much, but we're going to go ahead and do this. Austria-Hungary is unimpressed by our ultimatum and completes the occupation of Albania. So not only did we waste a lot of political capital here, and you can see our tensions with Austria-Hungary just shot up substantially, but we also failed in our mission, and Albania is now part of Austria-Hungary. You can see here there are various neutral sections on the map. So right here, for example, Rhodes, or right here, Libya. These are neutral as in no power controls them, and you can get those random events that pop up that allow you to change what one of those is. In this case, Albania had a random event, and unfortunately for us, Albania is now part of Austria-Hungary. That being said, this is Northern Europe. Is Austria-Hungary in Northern Europe? Austria-Hungary does not have its Austria-Hungary's fleet is for the most part in the Mediterranean. Okay, so that would make fighting them very difficult, but you can see the tensions are pretty high now. So, yeah, great. Okay, I'm still kind of hoping that we research something. So we just completed a new okay, there you go. Research breakthrough, machinery development, improved surface condenser, 1% weight savings on machinery, and a breakthrough on armor, Krupp armor, 1% weight savings on armor. All right, that's good. So we've got some additional. You can also, by the way, refit old ships with new technologies. So I could go ahead and go in here and essentially rebuild the ship with some of the new technologies. Open designs for rebuild. I'll drag this over. And you can see if we replace this machinery, right now it has 47 tons of additional weight that we could assign to things. We could replace that. You can see the weight remaining goes up. And theoretically, we could change certain things about the vessel's weapons. So maybe we would want to change I don't know if you can actually change the main battery guns, but we could change its speed or something like that, and then you'd see here we'd get different abilities to upgrade or downgrade things. We're not going to do that right now because it's just not enough weight savings to matter. Let's go ahead and skip to 1 more month. Scientists report that they're currently baffled by the problems of the Cockburn safety valve. I don't know what that is. Baffled by larger destroyers. Man, our scientists are just baffled. And I want to get to 1901. So a new light cruiser, research breakthrough, a new rangefinder technology, research breakthrough on hydraulic recoil, gradual rate of fire improvements, and a research breakthrough on ship design. Heavy secondary batteries enables secondary guns heavier than 7 inches in casemates or in single turrets. Okay, so it's some interesting breakthroughs in terms of technology. We're going to go ahead and move it into 1901. I still haven't built anything, by the way. There's been an internal upheaval in Haiti. If we send an expeditionary force to resolve or to restore order, there's a chance that we can take it over as a colony. The risks is increasing tensions with the United States considerably, and other nations might also have objections. So we should shoulder the burden and guarantee order in these cases, send a force, or we should not enter in an adventurous course of action. Well, if we do this, we increase tensions with the United States, probably, and we might get a hold of Haiti, but that would also kind of overextend our forces, in my view, because if we go to Haiti, I don't have a map up here, but if we go to Haiti, I mean, now we've got to have forces in the Caribbean as well, which makes being Russia all the much more difficult. If it was something in Africa or Asia, like on the way to Northern Asia, I would do it. But in this case, I'm not going to do it because it's kind of the opposite direction. We don't have sufficient port facilities, and I really don't want to be at war with the United States, which is another really powerful country. So I'm going to be lame and not do anything. All right, everybody, that's going to do it here for episode number 1 of my new Let's Play, looking at a Rule the Waves Let's Play playing as Russia, something I've never done before. We've gone through the first year of the game, and it's been pretty uneventful, but that's fine. We've gotten some forces in place in case we end up at war with Japan, and we have also sort of navigated the first year. In our next video, we will begin building our first vessels of new designs, so not using the sort of standard stock battleship designs that have been given to us, but we will begin constructing our first vessels of war in our own right. With that being said, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you're looking forward to the rest of the series. Please let me know your thoughts below. And until next time, this is the Historical Gamer saying thank you for watching, and I'm out.